Video on? Let's see. Turn the video on.
Oh, yeah, and then hopefully we'll keep our eye out for Margaret.
Okay.
Good enough.
We at least can record for minutes also, so.
Sounds great.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Next participant, yep, participant screen is showing.
Okay. Well, so we will call this meeting to order for the Conservation Commission. This Tuesday, August 13th.
We have a quorum right now.
I'm looking too, that's what I was saying.
Okay, right. Well, so
We
you need to have
Plus one.
half
Plus
plus one of the total
Yeah.
number of seats,
We
right?
do.
Which is 7. So
Yeah.
we need to have 4.
need 4, because right now we don't have.
We got 3. I think there you go. Now we have 4.
Oh, good.
Quorum established.
Quorum established. Yeah.
Hey, how do you get this so it's not blurry?
I have no idea. Give it to the young person. I don't know.
Hello.
Hey, Megan. Good to see ya.
So,
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I've actually got it kind of plugged in on my computer here, so that's all here is.
all right, so we've just determined we now have a quorum. We're called to order. So we need to go ahead and approve the minutes from the June the 11th meeting. I know those were sent out to all of us a while ago. If folks remember those, I think I have a copy, but I need to pass them around. If not,
I wrote them. I feel pretty good about
yeah,
it.
I feel good.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Good,
Okay.
okay,
Do we need to have a formal
need to
vote
I
for
think
that?
we have a
Thing?
formal vote.
I move that we accept the minutes.
All right.
in the letter.
I'll second.
Jeannie, aye.
Nate, I.
Megan, I.
Bill, I.
Okay. No, Margaret. Okay, cool.
Right,
Is Margaret on?
No, we're just gonna keep an eye out for her. I don't know if she's coming or not,
Yeah.
but
okay, great, that was approved. For reports and updates tonight, and that's,
Recording the minutes.
yeah.
it should be.
Mhm.
Something. Oh, yep.
Yeah, I think it is. Yep. And I'm taking notes too, but it's just nice to have the backup there.
So, I don't,
Michael Fernandez with the Conservation District.
oh, hi,
He's our
okay, great.
presenter for tonight.
Mhm.
Oh, super.
Okay, we can go ahead and move ahead a bit to reports and updates. The board overview and time frame. So it's unfortunate that we didn't have a forum last month because we actually, were able to just like off the record outside a meeting, just
Mhm.
casually and not in any formal way, just sort of talk about work a
Mhm.
little bit, which was great.
You and Kate.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Cool.
And Michael.
And Michael. Oh, good. Oh, right. Because the 3 were all that. Yeah.
So I think the good thing about this grant is that we've got it. We've got a year and a half to fulfill this. And basically our portion of this, our responsibilities have to do with making an inventory.
Yes.
So, right, it's very similar to what we've been commissioned to do by the select board.
Yeah.
So
the
that's
planning
nice, that we're
commission.
able to fulfill grant obligations and requirements from the select board. It looks like it's gonna be a bit more heavy with regards to forestry for Vork, which is fine.
Mhm.
And so Kate was attending those board meetings along with Tara.
Mhm.
So I've agreed to begin attending those now.
Cool.
Oh, thank
Great.
you.
So I've got access to the Google Docs and everything else. But I went online to review those Google documents and to go through the chats and see the minutes, and I could find nothing. I know there was something there,
Hmm.
so I talked with Tara about that. Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
Steve. How you doing, man?
Guess I could have brought my laptop. It's a note.
Could sit right in front of that sun.
Here we
Yeah, no, you're fine. So that work group is like you and Jennifer and Tara, basically, or
I think Sarah Gardner is in the
Oh,
work group as
cool.
well. I think
Mhm.
it's a broader work group, and if anyone else here wants to be part of that work group, that's fine. I'm sure you could be added.
is there like a meeting schedule, or are they kind of one-off meetings?
So there is a schedule. So I'm trying to access that as well.
Okay,
And so when I I chatted with Tara about it. And she agreed with the whole Google system for this. There
Mhm.
are some problems with it. So I'm just making sure it wasn't crazy after I signed in and everything else, that there was just like nothing to access.
Okay.
So that has been a bit of a snafu.
Mhm. So-
Are you trying to do that on whatever it's called, the town email or,
that is a contact for me
yeah,
officially, but this is a partnership.
okay.
So
okay,
it's
no,
broader
you
than
don't
the
have to,
town,
yeah.
right? And
'Cause
so
I'm
there's
just
one
saying I'm
partner.
having trouble with my town email. It's
Right.
not working at all.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
No, my town email seems to be fine, but
Steve, you said you were having some trouble with your town.
I don't
email
know,
too,
I
right?
opened it up and then I can't get back to it. And they won't let me form a new one.
Jeez.
I think it's my computer.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
So, yeah, we can do some thinking about, yeah, kind of tech support sessions.
I thought the library does that, don't they, on Thursdays or something?
Yeah, but I don't know if they'd be able to help you with a specific kind of internal system.
Ah.
I'm not really sure. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm
like you say, I'll
joining the
talk to Tara,
Parks and
too.
Recreation Committee.
great, okay.
So I'm gonna try and kind of keep in the loop with Jennifer on what she's working on. If it would be helpful for me to join this work thing, I'd love to just show
Yep.
up and hang out at the meetings, too, just to kind of get an understanding of what's going
I
on.
think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Because what we're gonna have to do is just as what we were doing as a commission with Laura, we're sort of determining responsibilities and roles that we each have regards to that grant. And again, like we talked about before, with doing an inventory of the entire town, our resources, that doesn't necessarily mean it's just us running around trying to do everything.
Mhm.
yeah.
But being able to identify folks who can help us. And I think
So-
we have someone here who has some ideas maybe about that tonight. Maybe. It's like, talk to me about this. Yes,
December.
right.
Is that just the forest management plan?
That's my understanding,
Okay.
without being able to verify that. And again, like I
Okay.
said, Tara said she'd be able to help me get access to the minutes and Google Docs and
Cool.
form that I haven't been able to get into yet.
And it sounded like the plan for, I don't know who's taking the point on this, but the plan was to like hire a forestry expert, potentially one that already did the like interim plan and just have them kind of
Right,
expand that. So we
exactly.
probably don't need to be super involved in
Right.
that.
And then we also need to do the water,
Right, but not everything by December.
Uh-huh.
okay.
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 You will need to be pretty clear on your objectives with your
Yes.
forester. Your easement, I've reviewed it
Mhm.
and it certainly has some guidelines, but if you all have specific objectives that you want your forester to work through, it's gonna be really good to have someone from this body holding their hand and making sure that they're actually addressing the concerns that you want addressed.
Mhm.
In a timely manner, because your window for receiving that technical assistance for this year is closing quickly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Foresters get booked out really long in advance. And really you have until we fall to get out and do all of your identification work. Do your stand assessment, take measurements,
That's,
Mhm.
and things like that. So I'd put a hustle on that
okay.
if I were y'all.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know
We
who's
have a
actually,
forester, there is someone who's actually working on this, that's Tara would be next.
oh, good. So are we gonna be kind of the point people for sort of coordinating with whoever that person is potentially?
I think with regards to,
Okay.
Do you know who that, is it the county forester?
Do you know him?
this,
Her,
her,
we've met once.
Mhm.
She's new.
Yeah, I saw an
don't know
article
if
in
he's
the
actually a
banner.
licensed forester.
can I make them remind me? Just.
Okay.
Just,
Something, I'd have to look it up.
okay, but yes,
Um,
that's what I was.
That's what I've heard. I don't know whether or not that's the case.
Okay.
She's not licensed,
That
that
is,
is a problem.
Okay.
Okay,
um,
we'll get to the problems.
it's what you're bringing.
Oh, Margaret.
Yeah, they just had mentioned an article about her and something to do with Bennington's little forest.
Yeah, she took over from Corey.
Margaret's trying to get in, by the way.
Oh,
Is that
really?
why that was?
Yeah.
maybe-
Where, oh, huh.
Oh, that's probably. No,
She must have
oops.
popped back out.
But they never do much with making plans, do they? Foresters,
Mhm.
not for individuals, it's maybe different for a town.
For individuals, for towns,
I mean, that was 20 years ago. and it's like, oh,
I'm not seeing her pop in.
Okay.
Tell her to try
Sorry,
again.
sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very clear. I thought they
Okay,
were
cool.
foresters, we couldn't know.
Yeah, it really depends
So the
on.
use value appraisal.
It depends on how much you're paying for it. Like, for a parcel that size, you're talking about at least a couple of weeks worth of stand assessment time. Going out, taking DBA to diameter, breast height measurements, assessing the watershed, tagging, any invasive clusters that are out there. It can be a lot of work. And for the fair use appraisal stuff, it have to be super detailed. But if you're looking to tap into conservation dollars, like we talked about at the last meeting, having a forest management plan in compliance with USDA requirements, which is the Natural Resource Conservation Services forest management plan practice, whether you are using the actual cost share remedy or you're going to a forester who has that technical service provider status and then working with that forester to develop your conservation plan, identify potential conservation activities, and plan that out over the 10-year term of your forest management plan. That's what opens up all of those secondary conservation cost share dollars that we promote through our local fund pool through CSP.
Yeah.
I kind of thought this was led into the next part of our meeting.
Mhm.
So I think it's stopped telling me.
I do this 80 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
So. Let's start.
So, so I'm still unclear that we need to find it, that you're saying that the forester that you were talking about, the female,
We need to.
that-
find
County
this.
forester.
she needs to have a license?
So there's two possibilities.
Hmm,
She is a licensed forester, and there's just a rumor going around that she isn't a licensed forester. Or the state agency of forestry has granted her a waiver
okay,
based on
okay.
professional experience and educational experience.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have hired a county forester that didn't have the ability to conduct
Yeah.
forestry activities.
Yeah,
And everything I've heard about her so far has been glowing, but it may be that it'd be helpful to know what her specialty is, if she's really, because you've got people who are more sugar bush foresters, you've got people who are more timber stand foresters, you've got people like me who are agroforesters that tend to be working more in open field context. And bringing forestry into those open field contexts. So there's a really wide and diverse
mhm,
range of foresters.
mhm,
And since you guys have so many goals for this property, you want it to be recreational, you want it to be timber yielding, you want it to be syrup yielding, you want it to also have a community food angle to it. All of those things in combination are going to be incredibly difficult for one forester to address. It's just a lot, it's too much information.
yeah.
You can't expect one person to know everything about all of those things.
Interesting.
I thought the Williams College students were gonna help with that, no?
We do have. That, again, this is why we need to have someone now involved in these meetings, like. I need to have that conversation with Sarah Gardner. I
Oh, okay.
understand, we need to understand as. a
Sarah Gardner's
commission.
the Williams teacher?
Yes, and
Mhm.
so, I am not exactly sure.
I have a little info on that.
Please,
Yeah. I talked with Jennifer a little bit.
okay,
And she was saying that she was also a little unclear on this, and in talking with Tara, her impression was that Tara was gonna be sort of taking the lead on coordinating with Sarah Garner. So this is now a third-hand information, so it's worth talking with Tara about and sort of making sure that that's the case. But that was Jennifer's impression, is that was kind of something that Tara was gonna largely handle, sort of managing.
I think we definitely need clarity on that
Yeah.
and understand. what that looks like.
Mhm. Okay.
All right, so do we want to, and go ahead and segue, I think we should, into Michael's presentation?
I don't know how much of a presentation it's gonna be this time around.
What,
Like information dump, whatever you got, yeah.
I think it could be
Wait a minute,
helpful
just-
For our purposes.
Yeah, what are
Somebody
you
wrote-
guys looking for from us?
Like understanding, number one, how,
My bag.
Sort of like what the conservation district does, for people who don't understand, who aren't on your board, for people who haven't been working with you, sort of like the range, how the conservation districts came about.
So the whole song and dance.
And the ways in which I think too, so like, again, as you just heard, for this grant, and also the town as well, I'm supposed to be taking it. And ways in which maybe we could partner with the district to assess that inventory,
Mhm.
make some determinations in ways that maybe we can't, and reasons why.
Okay, so lots of layers to the onion. So I'll,
Anything else right now?
and if people have questions as I
Yeah.
talk, please just interrupt me.
Yeah.
So I'm the district manager of the Conservation District. Jeannie is one of my 5 bosses. They are all elected technically, although no one has actually run for the board in about 50 years. They tend to get appointed now. Members of the community who make up the Board of Supervisors for a local unit of government that is, for all intents and purposes, established to be the primary planning and implementation facilitator for USDA conservation programs and state conservation programs. We were first established in 1936. It was fiscal year 1935 or 1936. Don't quote me on the date, with the Soil Conservation Act. Under the Roosevelt administration during the Dust Bowl, we were a direct response to that catastrophe. And over the course of our now almost 100-year history, making us, I believe, the oldest conservation organizations in the state. We have largely focused on private lands conservation and in working with towns before the regional commissions came to being, in navigating the labyrinthine system that is the state and federal government and funding opportunities, regulatory requirements. We are a non-enforcement entity, so we are, and also non-reporting, which outside of, your obvious criminality components to things. So we are very much the friendly face of the government when it comes to agriculture, forestry. It has expanded now to recreation, to urban areas, pretty much anywhere that requires a local touch to get federal and state money out or to priority projects. Our core function is to lead the locally led conservation process, which is an established process in US administrative law, where Conservation District acts as the chair of the subcommittee of the State Technical Committee, which is the entity that decides how federal ag dollars are spent through the Farm Bill. Now, used to not be the Farm Bill. Farm Bill came to be in the 80s. Currently, we are in a very rapid growth phase. When I started this job almost 3 years ago now, we had a part-time me. I was usually going about 20 hours a week. By the end of this month, we will be at 8 staff, covering the entire county. My primary function at this point is stuff like this: forging new partnerships, assisting groups and individuals with developing programs, implementing grants that they've gotten, but maybe don't have a great handle on how to get it done.
Mhm. That resonates for sure.
Well, and there's a lot of that in the state. We're very reliant on out-of-state funding, and the way these programs are designed and is not friendly to anyone who doesn't have a full-time job dedicated to understanding this minutia of how these programs work. In our previous discussion, I highlighted a couple of things. One, the Regenerative Food Commons project that was initiated during our first Community Resilience Forum last September, which is where we pull together as many community members as we can and have a day-long information session and voting process to allow the community to select policy initiatives and workshops for the coming year. We have just restarted the actual symposium series with new funding, but throughout that time from last September to now, we've been working with our partners to develop the funding and personnel necessary to actually make some of these things that folks want to have happen. Again, last time we were here, we discussed our hickory mapping initiative. There's a very underappreciated tree in our region,
Hickories.
the yellow bud hickory, also known as the bitternut hickory. You two have heard me talk about this before. The easiest way to think about it is our region's olive tree. It produces hundreds of pounds of nuts per year, which can be processed through cold expeller press to produce a product of higher quality in most cases than your top shelf olive oil. We worked with a firm out of California. Sorry, that's where they work. To develop a machine learning model that helped us map where we think there's a really high likelihood of these trees being.
Wow.
And there is a very large stand of it in your town forest, potentially. We have to go out and actually look.
That's a question.
Yeah.
So is that something that as we are mapping our own resources for purposes of this grant and for purposes of what we've been commissioned to do, could we participate in that as well? So we can get a good understanding of what that might look like. Great.
We actually just got our licensing agreements back from Conservation Law Foundation. We're partnering with some local landowners to harvest the nuts and process them and sell the end product to seed and endowment that will be used to assist historically underserved landowners in implementing their conservation practices. Because very often, especially people on the lower end of the economic spectrum, even if we get them these cost share programs, they get paid half upfront, half after the fact. So we have to find ways. I've had farmers put things on credit cards. We're trying to ameliorate that situation by taking this opportunity of this new identified resource and saving and investing the revenue from that resource so that we can perpetuate this conservation program that we've initiated over the last few years. I don't know if Pownell would be interested in participating in that way, because what we're doing with the private landowners is we are writing a donation receipt for the volume of the nuts. We pay about $5 a gallon to pickers. That's what we've done in the past. This year, we're shifting because of our Climate Corps program, which I can get to more in a second. We're going to have an actual labor force that we can deploy to pick nuts. So we're harvesting them off of private landowners, established stands, selling them to the processor, and then we're retaining those funds.
And then they get like a tax write-off or something based on that donation.
Yeah, so they get the $5 per gallon rate as a donation to the conservation district.
So you have some literature, just it's called bitternut hickory?
Bitternut hickory is the common name for it right now. We're trying to rebrand.
Yeah, yellow.
Sure.
Yellow bud, yeah.
Because I, for instance, I have a lot of hickories on my property, on the hickory share, three sisters. And I just wondered how you would know if it's, I mean, there's nuts on one, I know there's two kinds of hickory, right?
Yes, I do. We do have literature.
Okay,
that
good.
I can share.
Yeah, that'd be good.
in addition to our lovely new licensing agreements, which we're going over tomorrow. That's gonna be fun. Going through a 15-page or so, contract line by line. Our board meetings are much longer than an hour.
So is that something that like the select board would need to kind of make a call on ultimately about like sort of including that in like part of the, is that like part of the forest management plan? at
That would be
point?
part of the forest management. plan.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
the practice that we would use to free up that hickory if it's overgrown is called crop tree release.
Okay.
There's brush managed, like there's all these, there's hundreds and hundreds of these codes.
Mhm.
We refer to them as practices. And my job as a conservation planner is to work with the landowner, whether it's a town or an individual or a corporation, and making sure that that the landowner understands all of the potential opportunities, like give them the full gamut. Because that isn't the NRCS's job.
Mhm.
Their job is to give you exactly what you ask. The NRCS then writes the conservation plans that underpin those practices. And then we put them through the system. If they're a strong enough case and a strong enough conservation benefit, those then get funded. So it's a kind of weird process that we've developed with our partner agencies where we're taking the input and kind of running interference and making sure that the end user of these programs, the landowner, isn't just overwhelmed by the sheer volume of stuff that gets thrown at you
Mhm.
for all these things. There's a lot of white noise, there's a lot of paperwork, it gets very overwhelming very quickly. So we're kind of the handholders. And also trying to get the land managers in the county to start pulling on the same oar in the same direction in terms of cooperativism, collaboration, and also providing the ecosystem services, which is a term I hate, but I'm going to use it anyway because it's pretty commonly known. That the community benefits, the flood resiliency benefits, the carbon sequestration benefits, the water quality improvement benefits, as well as the resilient food system that we all rely on, not only for our own stomachs, but is a key component of our tourist economy in this region. So we kind of have to try and do it all. That is our mandate. Our original conservation action plan called for the continuous effort being put into creating a permanent and prosperous agriculture run by happy, healthy people. So weird thing to have gotten written down and signed in the early 1940s
Yeah.
Oh, no,
by a
it's
bunch of farmers.
not when Roosevelt was.
It's
in
yeah, it's a very New Deal-y kind of
it.
thing.
Love it.
So yeah, we have a conservation action plan that was developed over the course of these last 2 years. We submitted that conservation action plan to the NRCS. That conservation action plan has been approved and that has now resulted in our local funding pool, which some of you may have heard of. We've got flyers all over the place, 750,000 for Bennington and Rutland County land stewards. We're cranking that up way higher next year. I didn't ask for enough. But after the fact. And something that I really need the conservation commissions to be aware now that we have a state conservationist who's actually following the law. Going through the conservation districts and our locally led process is a direct line to the USDA.
Mhm.
And also, as a result of that, like, it'd be great if we could get a vote from you guys tonight asking me to ask the USDA to make the Hoosick River a priority water body for this fiscal year. We didn't get enough in the conservation needs assessment for me to make that claim. We were able to do that for the Williamsack. But if I got a vote from the Pownell Conservation Commission that I could take and submit for August 23rd, there's a chance that we might be able to get this main stem section that runs through town prioritized as a priority water body. And that increases the available funding to projects in this area. Now we've talked about federal programs, let's talk about state for a second, because there's a few more.
We just pause
Yeah.
though for that. I mean, I think what we could do is vote to advise the select. board. But I don't know that we
You have till August 23rd.
can vote.
Well, I mean, it depends kind of, I think it depends kind of who the end, you know, the end person looking at this is and whether or not they care. I mean, do you have any input on that?
But our next meeting is the 22nd.
20
So
seconds.
it's tight. you
I
know.
can pull it off.
Well, I mean, is there, I
How do
don't,
we word this? That's.
Why don't we, so what we usually do is we
Advise.
recommend to the,
Advise.
yeah. So yeah, the board probably
is it
should.
possible to put a little,
Well, here's some.
urgency on that so that we can get it done
Very
quicker?
specifically, what is you, because there is a
Mhm.
Pownell Conservation Commission, we do exist. I'm just wondering what,
If the Pownell Conservation Commission had something in their minutes asking the Conservation District to request to the NRCS that the
What-
Hoosick River, this portion, this main stem of the
Mhm.
Hoosick River, be included as a priority water body for fiscal year 25, then I can send that to Travis Thompson and to Angela Heidelberg. Like, there's some people at NRCS that I send that to as an addendum to the conservation needs assessment that we've already completed,
Mhm.
because it is a continuous iterative process. It doesn't stay still. And
Okay.
I still have 10 days. I have 10 days
Uh-huh.
that I can file for requests to alter components of what has already been done. We can also do it next year. It happens every year,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but it does
Well, then
increase.
why not,
granting our powers.
Is there any negatives to being on a priority?
No, it's just if it means that every practice, so there's 3 categories of funding based on demographics. There's straight NRCS cost share, there's water quality protection cost share, and there's historically underserved cost share. If you are historically underserved, you get a higher payment rate and you also get the 50% upfront. I believe the 50% upfront is also the case for the water quality protection. But what I do know is that the payment rates are considerably upwards of 25% higher, depending on.
Wow.
Payment to whom for what?
So,
For any projects that we would need.
Oh, okay.
So when I go onto a site and write a conservation plan
Oh,
for that site, we have
I
a
get it.
list of practices over
Yeah.
the course of like 5 years
Mhm.
that we're planning to implement in a sequence. And what the landowner gets paid depends on what demographic or geographic
Yeah.
statuses that they're able to check. So it doesn't have to be super duper official, but
Mhm.
if the Conservation Commission, it's in your minutes, and I can point to those minutes and send Travis.
So could a person just make a motion that the Conservation Commission, what do we want to request of the select board?
here's what I think we can do.
Or
I'm
that just
looking at
request
the select
straight
board and our powers and responsibilities for the
Mhm.
select board. And so responsibility number 4 is to administer the lands, properties, and other rights which have been acquired by the municipality for the purpose of this chapter. And that is the closest thing that I think that's, they're requesting that.
The Hoosick River be included as a priority water body
Yeah.
for 2025.
I don't know
I
why
don't
the select
think-
board would be
why
mad
does-
about us trying to get more
And I-
funding for the area.
No,
I think
I
we should
can't-
just, yeah,
I think
beg
we
for
should just go for
forgiveness
it.
versus asking for permission in this case, yeah.
So
It's part
I,
of it is administering those natural resources though.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good argument for that. I don't think we're stepping on
think
anybody's
it's a
toes
good-
And
necessarily.
it would have to come from the conservation.
Yeah.
It would have to come from the Conservation Commission.
It's going to carry a lot of weight. coming
Yes.
from the
Uh-huh,
Conservation
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Commission.
so I would like to make a motion that the Conservation Commission requests from the NRCS that the Hoosick River be included as a priority water body for 2025.
I'll second that.
All right,
Any objections?
no,
objections? No.
No.
Okay. So we don't vote on.
We
that,
need to
do
vote
we?
on that.
I don't know.
I think as long as there aren't any objections,
Yeah, I think
that's
we're
kind
good.
of considered unanimous. Do you want me to like send you a copy of the minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
On the state side of things, I have already asked, because you all are in Basin 1 for DEC's watershed mapping, because we are the state's only Hudson River drainage. I have already asked Angie Allen to prioritize the Hoosic as a priority water body for the state.
Mhm.
We're going through our 5-year plan update with DEC right now. And that should, on top of a bunch of other stuff that I've done, assist in getting more funding down towards this portion of the county.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If we are a priority water body, or who's it? Does the fact that the racetrack has is on in the floodplain and has a lot of asbestos and a lot of God only knows what toxic, plus people are just throwing their garbage there, does that enter into like,
That's part of why
Would
it's a
it be-
priority water body.
yeah,
Um,
I mean, I would think
so-
that maybe we could get something to
Yeah, so the
force it. I
way,
mean,
so we work with 2 different funding streams. We work with the NRCS and work with rural development. So you probably remember as Vermonters, the Conservation Law Foundation sued the state back in over the total maximum daily load of phosphorus being entered into Lake Champlain. So that's clean water violation.
Okay.
We're getting close on some of our rivers to degraded status. And if we get past degraded status, we could be subject to a TMDL for either nitrogen or phosphorus. Total maximum daily load limit
Mhm.
for either nitrogen or phosphorus. So like projects like that and the way clean water funding flows, it goes to those priority water bodies because we've either not got enough data on those water bodies to even know if it's degraded or not, which is the case of the Hoosic.
Is it, even though what Hoover's doing is that?
Yeah.
They're not,
That's the reason Hura got that funding was because we need to start getting this water quality data so we can figure out if we're degrading or not. That's what La Rosa is used for, which is what we're doing that through. That being said, I love the work they're doing. They're taking a lot off of our plate. But there's some funding streams that the district specifically has access to and capacity to implement that I don't think y'all have without staff. And that
Mhm.
Hura definitely also doesn't have because they're not a Vermont entity. One, which an RFP just came out for this, is the Trees for Streams program. That is a conservation district exclusive program. They're the only ones who can apply.
It's called Trees for Streams.
Trees for Streams.
Trees for Streams.
So that's for private, often non-agricultural landowners to plant riparian buffers on their stream sites. So
Uh-huh.
that reduces erosion, it reduces sheet flow into the stream. It's useful to have those riparian buffers.
as long as they're not, Japanese nut.
Correct.
Well, that ties into what, Jim Henderson was talking about when he came down. They've got some kind of good sort of information and out to people. Sort of, yeah, plans and what.
Mm.
So we also are a subrecipient of the state's watershed enhancement grants through our state council, National Resource Conservation Council. Those are typically for more like engineering oriented projects, so culvert upgrades, like watershed master plans, things of that nature. And I made sure that areas outside of Lake Champlain, specifically our area, ears to the ground. Us to where things need fixing, we can write grants and have the staff to administer those grants, hire seasonal staff to do that work or contractors to do that work. So that we can actually get the ball moving on a couple things.
What do you do about the private land thing? You go and talk like. But
I'm very convinced.
back to the racetrack, nobody can knock on their door. They're just like.
No, who owns that parcel?
Oh,
It's like a big LLC
Yeah,
of
it's
like
just-
investors.
yeah, it's just garbage. I mean, you try to call them and they.
Have you talked to Jim about having it to play the brownfield site?
I think there has been some progress on all that. Yeah, I think the government is already involved. in
Well,
state, yeah.
the state didn't really.
Oh, there.
Were they, yeah?
Don't answer.
For what it's worth, like, I think
Who
that
doesn't?
this
The
is a
owners?
project
Yeah.
we're